Another great week. Actually, you know what? It was a great week one. We had some really good games. Big Rat and we got our game coming up for week two. We're going to get into that. Um, Look, we're going to do things a little bit differently today. We're going to look at each game and then like see what our takeaways was. But was there a big takeaway from week one that, because obviously we'll get into both our teams, that you had from week one where you're like viewing a team through a different lens, whether it be good, bad, or questionable?
Yeah, so obviously excluding our teams, because I'm sure like we'll devote all our energy when we get to their game at the end. Because that honestly, like before we get there, our teams probably had two of the biggest week one takeaways of almost everyone. So we'll get there. We'll get there. In a good, I would say probably the Raiders. Just like I was high on them. Famously on the show, I said I think I predicted them to finish second in the division. I predicted them to fight for a playoff spot. I took the over on their win total. I actually bet it. I'm not just recommending it. I actually put my own money on it too. It was just encouraging to see. I'm not that surprised that this is probably going to be like a 7 to 9 win team, but you always like seeing the proof of concept, like against a team that's probably going to be around 500 as well on the road in their building, to have like 6.4 yards per play. That's the thing that really caught my eye. Like I know the point total wasn't super high, but on a play to play basis, it looked like one of the better offenses in the league. It looks like they can run and they can throw. I was very, very encouraged. I guess it doesn't answer your question because it's not surprising, but it's at least good to know that the 4-win team last year does not look like a 4-win team anymore. So that part I was most encouraged about. In terms of discouraged,
I have one.
Yeah, and I would say I'll give my real answer in terms of a surprise, but the inverse of the Raiders, you're not surprised. You thought this team was going to be bad, but it's sad to kind of confirm that they're going to be bad. For me, that was probably the Giants, because that just looked like a classic Brian Dable, Daniel Jones game. And it's like, okay, nothing's changed. They are literally the same team. Now, it's week one. They might change quarterbacks. There's a whole bunch of reasons to be excited. It's just, again, I'm not surprised at it. It's just with all the hype that maybe the Giants could find something with their defense and their defensive line, for them to week one to just like get killed again, to not score again. I feel like under Dable, they have all these games where they like can't even get to 2 touchdowns. It just kind of like immediately, like any hope I had that maybe things could improve this year, I was like, oh no, they're the same like 4-win team they've been like the last 2 years. Again, not necessarily surprised. It's just week one kind of like confirmed it. Like, oh shit, yeah, they're unlike the Raiders, where I expected them to be better and they were better. The Giants, it's like I expected them to be the same, but maybe they could be different, and then they showed actually no, they are in fact exactly the same. Then I mean, Lions would probably be the other one, but I'm guessing that'll come up later in the show.
My good surprise was Justin Herbert. He like, and no, we're not here to say he's MVP, but like when it came to, hey Justin, you got to make us plays to burn clock and win us this game Friday night, he did exactly that. Yep. He also had a really good game. I feel like he's a quarterback to where when he plays really well, everyone goes quiet. But the second he has a bad game or he does some stuff to cost the team the game, right away, it's the if quarterback. It's just Herbert being Herbert. I've always been a fan of Justin Herbert's coming out of Oregon. So like it was nice to see. And also for them to get a divisional win like that in the de facto home game, it meant a lot. I could talk about Kansas City, but I'll get into them more in their video because I heard a radio take today from Kevin Clark that I wanted to share with you. But my bad was the Bills' safety play. I know they got the win. It looked miraculous. But I look at that and I go, how? Because on the show, I said to Greg, I want to see the defense win a game because Ed Oliver, what a game. Stuffing Derrick Henry in the backfield, getting through that Baltimore O-line, which is one of the best offensive lines in the game. But the secondary play, Derrick Henry is just like, oh, I'm going to run by Cole Bishop. Oh, I'm going to run by Taylor Rapp. Oh, I'm going to run by DeMar Hamlin, where it's just like if Buffalo wants to be a serious team come late January, they got to clean it up, and we'll see if they do it this week. And then one that surprised me, caught off guard. I'll say this, but Justin Fields. I was talking to Danny throughout the game. I know he was there. I was shocked when he told me how bad the defense was, though, because that's usually the good focal point of the Jets, where it's like the Jets are defensively sound, offense is always questionable. But this game, it was, hey, offense looked great. Justin Fields played great. It seemed like Breece Hall was back to like what he was in his rookie year before his ACL tear. So Danny had some pretty solid takeaways from that game. So I'll go with the Jets just because we all said bad and they could turn out to be bad. But on a week one, when you had Aaron Rodgers coming in and the Steelers looking the way they did, the Jets still held their own and earned a lot of respect.
I agree offensively. Like I was also talking to Danny. We were talking about how Tanner Engstrom could be a future head coach. And I think that's very true. I mean, if you look at Tanner Engstrom, Ben Johnson, and Jared Goff, Tanner Engstrom had by far the best showing of the three of them in terms of who, quote unquote, gets credit for the Lions offense last year. And the problem with the Jets is I'm starting to realize this and noticing how football trends change. In most of the 2010s, in the rise of Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, but even if you look at the other like best quarterbacks at that time, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Phillip Rivers, Big Ben before he fell off a cliff, that era of quarterbacking that we're so used to, zone coverages would just get torn up repeatedly because these quarterbacks are too smart. They know the soft spots in the zone. They know where to go with the ball pre-snap. So routinely, you would just see like Brady throwing to a slot receiver being covered by like a linebacker like 5 yards away. And these quarterbacks like destroyed those teams. So you saw this trend in the late 2010s where a lot of the Belichick teams especially would play a lot of man coverage with their corners. And the logic being, okay, you can't play too much of a zone-heavy defense in today's NFL. And I know man zone, it's a lot more complicated than that. I'm just talking from a general big picture lens.
Oh, yeah.
They would be very man-heavy with their DBs to cover like running backs out of the backfield, to cover like tight ends. And the logic was you can't give the space because cerebrally these quarterbacks are too smart. They can slice up these zones. You need to play a lot of man coverage. I think now we're kind of going the other way where a super man-heavy defense, I don't know if that plays that well in today's NFL because the quarterbacks are all athletic. All these guys can run. And man coverage, like it drives me crazy whenever I'm like rooting against the Eagles in a game and the defense is playing man coverage and giving one-on-one coverage to A.J. Brown down the field. It's like, okay, you're going to give up a 50-yard bomb to A.J. Brown or all you guys are going to backs turn to the quarterback and Jalen Hurts is going to run. That's why I told Greg the night of that Thursday game, Eagles-Cowboys, I sent him a message like, I really do believe if Buffalo were to play Philly in the Super Bowl, I really do believe Buffalo would beat them up because they would play too high zone the whole game. They won't let Jalen Hurts run for 1,000,000 yards, and they'll just not allow the 150-yard throw they do every week. Last week it happened to be to Dotson, but usually it's to A.J. Brown. Just take away that throw and don't let Jalen Hurts run, and you could shut down that offense. I really do believe that. And I think the Bills are like built in a lab to shut that team down. And so it goes to the Jets because Aaron Glenn liked to play a lot of man coverage in New Orleans. He played a lot of man coverage with Detroit last year. I don't think us leading the league in man coverage is a stat you want to have this year because you play too many mobile quarterbacks. There's too many receivers that are just too good that guys can't cover one-on-one. There's so many tight ends like Brock Bowers out there that'll just beat your corner in one-on-one coverage. Like I think if you lead the league in man coverage now versus like 10 years ago, that's probably not a good thing. And as excited as I was for the Jets offense, I think philosophically they're going to keep getting gashed if Aaron Glenn insists on playing this way. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Also, if I was kind of like tuning in and out, so essentially I have a dog down here with me, but then the cat decided to come down and kind of overtake his territory. So I'm just trying to make sure the two of them don't get into a Mexican standoff right now as she's like moaning and hissing at him and literally sitting at my feet, being a cat. But no, like I agree with you because I always remember that Bills-Eagles game from a couple years ago in Buffalo where it was just pretty much, that was more of a puncher's just knockout game. But like these two teams play week 17 and what that game's going to have a lot on the line, not only for playoffs, I feel, but for fantasy football as well. Because, you know, everyone's like, it's like one of those things by then everyone's like, oh, they're going to be starting no one's going to be playing. I'm like, no, that game's got a lot more on the line than people think.
And the first half of that game, like Jalen Hurts had like 48 passing yards and almost no rushing yards. And then, in the second half, the teams got hot. It turned into a little bit of a track meet. I still believe if you were to redo that matchup, especially in Buffalo or on a neutral field and not in Philly,
Buffalo week 17.
Yeah, and I really think that Eagles offense would struggle because I think if like they don't throw a lot as is. Like Jalen Hurts has the least passing yardage in the NFL. Like they were the only team last year to not throw for 300 yards. The only team, the Giants with Drew Lock, threw for 300 yards. The Eagles never did. They only threw over 250 yards 4 times total the entire year. He threw for less than 200 last week, and that is like he did that in 12 of his 17 games last year or something like that. This team doesn't throw that much. Most of their yardage is in that one bomb. It's always in that one 50 to 70-yard throw that they make every single week. If you just take that away and take away the rushing, there's just not much to this offense. I really do believe that. But yeah, we'll save that for another day.
Thursday night, we start with Green Bay and Washington, 2 teams 1-0. Green Bay, all of a sudden, catching steam, catching wind as they took care of the Detroit Lions. The team I thought that was Detroit was going to win because they had a great track record at Lambeau.
Yep.
And for all the memes out there of like Dan Orlovsky, of like Jared Goff when he doesn't have Ben Johnson, the Lions are good. We'll talk about the Lions in a little bit. They're going to be fine. I think it's just there's some growing pains. But with a game like this, I'm going Green Bay, but this is a real prove-it game for Jaden Daniels. Last week it was the Giants. Like we said, Giants are disappointing. And then with the Packers, it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, you did it last week. You've gone from like this great team to this elite team to where it's just, what can you do with what you have, So I like Green Bay to win, but this is a really good spot for the Commanders to show the world, hey, last year was no fluke.
Yeah, I like Green Bay too. Coin flip game. Both teams are good. Thursday night, Lambeau. You usually take the home team. I don't really know. Like whoever wins this game, it might matter for tiebreaker, which of course matters in the grand scheme of things. But in general, not a division game. It's still early in the year. There's still time to rebound. The short week. It's still like a decent excuse. So honestly, both teams just try to stay healthy, long season ahead, and like the Packers. We'll see.
Sorry for the brief break and pause, folks, but animals are a fun little bunch. No, but also with this Thursday night game, I don't know if you get the same vibe, but like last week, it doesn't feel like Thursday night football. It's like, hey, it's kickoff to the season. It is on a Thursday, but this is the true one where it's like, you get Kirk, you get Al Michaels, you get an exciting game to start. Actually, honestly, I think 2 or 3 good games to start because obviously you and Buffalo next week, and then week 4 it's Seattle, Arizona. I say that's when the rivalry stuff comes into play. But this, it's a great way to start. It's a good feel too. But also, here's my big test as well. How does the weapons of Green Bay look? The Romeo Doubs, the Jaden Reeds, Matthew Golden over 34.5 yards tonight. And then Josh Jacobs too, chasing history. I believe he's had touchdowns in 11 straight games.
Wow.
Where I know Priest Holmes did it as well in 11 straight, but I think LT has the record. I think it's at 12 or 13. So this is going to be a really good game to see how the season goes. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens from here on out.
Yeah. It's one of those games where I'm almost mad it's this early. This feels like a mid-December exciting primetime game that we all watch together. Like right now, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn about these teams. I'm trying to learn what's going to translate, what's not going to translate this upcoming season from all the content we had in the offseason. And it's hard to learn from this game. It's like I think these are both going to be double-digit win teams. One of them has to win. I don't really know what there is to learn about. I agree with what you said about the Packers receiver rotation. I thought it was interesting that Matthew Golden only played 58% of the snaps last week. I wonder if that's going to go up. So I guess seeing how the Packers receiver room develops is interesting to see how the hierarchy checks out.
Yep.
But come on, man, this is too early. I'm trying to the weeks 1 through 4. That's when I want to see the bad teams because there's intrigue right now. Like we just talked about with the Giants. It's like maybe they will suck, but before week 1, there was okay, they might have the best D-line, one of the best D-lines in the NFC. Maybe there's something here. You can at least talk yourself into it. Like the Panthers, great example. Maybe they're going to be bad this year, but Bryce Young ended the season hot, and maybe they can be on the come up, and maybe they can actually compete for the NFC South. It's like that hope is alive in September. When these teams play later in the year, we're not going to care. Later in the year, we just want to see the best teams. We just want to see the best games. Now, we'll watch anything. It's early in the season. So I get it. Bezos, you are paying a lot of money. You need the good teams to be on Thursday Night Football. I totally understand. But please, just push these games later in the calendar. It's better for everyone. We were all going to watch tonight regardless, no matter who you put in the slot. At least make it a little more intriguing.
Like the Baltimore Ravens hosting the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to come out and say this. I don't know if they win, but I love Cleveland to cover this 12.5 number. I don't know what it is. I picked them last week to cover the 5.5 against the Bengals. I think people are expecting, and this number's also crept up. I think it started at 10 and it's going up. Because I know last time we talked about this specifically, it was Baltimore and Denver, and you said this is a sign that Vegas shows that this game could get out of hand. I think this is a game that Cleveland's, not that they're getting disrespected. I still think Cleveland's going to be a bad football team. But there's something about this game where it's like, Baltimore fell apart. The Ravens all of a sudden saying, we're going to celebrate 30 years of our team against the team that we took away from their city. Cleveland Browns players are talking about feeling that the spread's disrespectful because they feel like they're better and that they can hang with them. And Cleveland's gone into Baltimore before when they've not been expected to do anything and take care of business. The first of which I think was the game where Watson, or most recent memory, was one where Watson tore his ACL for the first time.
His shoulder.
It was the shoulder injury, excuse me. So I would not put money on them to win, but you can't convince me that they're not going to cover the number.
An Achilles injury, by the way.
The Achilles, excuse me. It was the Achilles.
Yeah, Ravens are going to win. The only intrigue in this game is by how much do they win? It's kind of cool that Joe Flacco has never played in Baltimore since he left. This is the first time.
Yeah.
7 years. That's pretty crazy. Like only like a few of those years, like last year and I guess like sometime in 2022, like those were kind of the only years where he was just like not really playing. But otherwise, Flacco's been playing. And so for him to just be floating around all these different teams and never once play in Baltimore since then, I think is it's just fascinating. It's just very, very, very interesting and unique. So yeah, Ravens are going to win. We'll see by how much. Ravens offense, 30 points in 12 of their last 15 games. Like they're a juggernaut. They score on everybody. In my home league last year, the team that won it had Lamar and Henry. And normally you would think that's contradictory. Like, why would you, if Henry is taking rushing touchdowns, that's going to vulture away from Lamar. But they're so dominant that it just doesn't matter. They both score anyways. And first game of this year, it was the same trend. They both like exploded fantasy-wise in the same game. So yeah, it's like one of those hidden hacks where actually the trick is not one or the other. The trick is actually just to get both of them. So yeah, 30 points, 12 of the last 15. This Ravens offense is a juggernaut.
Absolutely. I can see this being like a 10-point Raven victory, but I do like the over for this game is 45.5. I say that's a number I can see hitting as well. I'm still trying to figure out what to do for this week's video.
I like the over. I like the over a lot because the Ravens are probably going to score 30. So you really just need like the Browns to get to two touchdowns. Yeah, I like that. I like the over here.
Cincinnati, Jacksonville, which I think it is for the video now. Cincinnati, Jacksonville. I don't want to say get right game for Cincinnati, but it's more of a reestablishing game because Jacksonville Carolina just didn't look good last week. There was the lightning delays. There was other stuff. Liam Cohen seems to be real, but I think last week Cleveland playing a divisional foe, I know everyone looks at it. I didn't realize this until I watched a video on TikTok about it, but all three of Chase, Higgins, and Burrow had under 10 fantasy points. I think this is a game where it's 3.5. I'm not saying belt to ass, but I could see at least a 7-10, a comfortable, like not a dominant, but a comfortable Bengals win that, gives that fan base, not a rejuvenation, but kind of like a re-jolt of confidence going into week, because next week, week 3, they go into Minnesota to play the Vikings.
The Jaguars, not the Jaguars, the Bengals last week, I believe had 7 net yards after halftime. 7. It is crazy that they won that game. They were outgained by like 200 yards. Obviously the Browns kicker, did he get cut?
No, but Jake Moody's probably on a plane to Cleveland right now as we speak.
Yeah, because that was like bad.
Or Younghoe Koo, we don't know.
I'm looking at it now. 327 yards to 141. The Bengals had 2.9 yards per play. 2.9. That is terrible. So, yeah, obviously, I've always been a proponent of road division. And we've talked about this before with the Patriots. Road division games are always hard, no matter where they take place. So that road division games are very much just win any way you can, get your style points at home. Yes. So I'm not like docking the Bengals significantly for their offense, like basically doing nothing. And I do think the Jaguars with Trevor on the road is not exciting. Like in his career, I believe historically he's like a very bad road quarterback against the spread. I could be wrong on that, but I believe I've read that stat before somewhere. So yeah, I like the Bengals here as well. I do think it should be said that they do still suck early in the season. They are now 2-11 under Zach Taylor in week 1 and 2, and the second win was last week. So it should be noted that they still haven't figured out their early season problems. But that fact alone does not give me enough conviction to pick a new team, a new head coach. It kind of feels like they still haven't figured out the Travis Hunter thing, which I guess is understandable.
Yeah.
But they're talking this week like we got to give him more snaps on defense, and it's like they still don't really seem to understand how many snaps on offense and defense he's going to play every week. And in the summer, that's one thing, but you're in the grind of the season now. And is this going to be a thing where every week we're telling the game plan, scaling him up on offense, down on defense, down on offense? I don't know. It just doesn't. I'm a little uncomfortable with the experimentation. I know it's early. It's understandable for there to be some experimentation for such a unique player. But I just wonder, like, when does this get fixed? That's kind of the other side of unorthodox. The fun part of unorthodox is, oh, Travis Hunter can do something we've never seen before in the NFL. Yes, that's the fun part. The bad part about unorthodox is this really going to work? And we'll see.
So I looked it up. Trevor in 50 road games is 22 and 28 against the spread. So about a 44% rate.
Sounds about right.
Dallas, New York. This one's come down. I'm keeping it easy. I'm going to the Dallas Cowboys. I think this is just a game where I look at Dallas and I'm like, last week, besides CeeDee Lamb dropping footballs, they're not going to be a bad football team. They're going to be what we know them as, a team that, hey, routinely is competitive, probably gets waxed in the playoffs, and then we go about our day and their fans keep saying it's our year. But last week was a big confidence-boosting game where it's like, hey, they were giving it to the Eagles for a lot of that game. They were like, we're not going away. And a Giants team who looked really bad last week. This is a Dallas defense as well that, I got to say this, Jack Sanborn, great addition for them. But the run defense was there invisible. They aren't playing a Saquon Barkley, so I feel like Tyrone Tracy's someone you can contain in the box. I feel like Eberflus is going to have some stuff schemed up. I feel like Dallas can do enough to win, and I think they cover the number. I think it's 4.5. It's an easy cover. That's really all I got to say about this game.
I'm on Dallas too. I understand. I've already seen a few betting shows take the points with the Giants, just with the logic of it's a division game. Let's not overreact to week one. I get it, but yeah, I'm firmly with you that until proven otherwise, I'm just going to assume this Giants offense is incompetent. And I understand that they didn't have Andrew Thomas last week. I don't know if they're going to have him this week either. But nonetheless, I'm just going to operate with the operating assumption that the Giants with Dable, with Russ. Now, the Jackson Dart stuff is like a different variable.
I have something to say about that.
Yeah, and I'm just looking now. Andrew Thomas did practice today, but still,
yeah.
I'm going to assume for the foreseeable future that the Giants cannot score in their current operating environment until they prove otherwise. Until they prove to me that this is not going to be the same offense from the last 2 years, I'm just going to assume that they're a team that cannot score. And if you're a team that cannot score, I do not trust you to cover a number against the Cowboys because the Giants defense is not going to be harder than the Eagles defense was, even with Jalen Carter not playing that game. And the Cowboys, I'm not saying the run game will be the same. That was probably very Jalen Carter led, and Dexter Lawrence, assumingly, is going to play in this game. So I don't think they'll have the same run success they had last week, but I also think Pickens probably gets more than 30 yards this time. So for that reason, I think Cowboys are going to play against a team that can't score, and the Cowboys can score, so they'll probably cover 4.5. Yes.
So the thing I was going to say with Jackson Dart, and I've been starting to think about this too, if you're John Mara, you probably want him to start next week because you're hosting Sunday Night Football, even though you're welcoming the Chiefs to town. That's the, hey, new quarterback, this and that. They play the Chiefs, Chargers, Saints, and Eagles in their next 4 games after this. I feel like if they get to 0-4 after that Charger game, you're going to see Dart go in for that game because the Eagles game is Thursday Night Football week 6. They're not going to start a rookie on short notice like that. So I think the plan is get them to New Orleans and then play Dart in a game that you can possibly win. The other thing going against the Giants, that was their crux. Their schedule is the AFC West and the NFC North. Have fun with that. Plus, playing 12 times, playing 6 games against the NFC East, which has 3 pretty competent teams ahead of you in the standing. So the cards are basically stacked against the Giants' favor pretty much for all of 2025.
And I think the Russell Wilson stuff, you've already apparently Dable didn't commit to him in the press conference after the Commanders game. He eventually did.
It was on Monday morning.
Yeah, Monday morning. Okay, so he eventually did make him the starter, but he's already showing concern. Week 1, I don't think they're going to have too much of a tolerance if this continues. If they get rocked and they can't score, we could see it. I agree with you. We could see it as soon as next week because the fact that he's already shown this like temporary breaking point on Monday tells me that we're close. We're close.
Because he also knows too that if he puts Dart in too early, he will get fired. That's the thing. If you put Dart in and he looks terrible, he gets fired. Same thing happened with New England last year. We'll talk about that game next because up now, Detroit versus Chicago. Detroit, a team who, just it didn't look right last week. Like we said, there were all the memes going with Goff not playing well. He's still a gunslinger. He's still a competent quarterback. They're going to figure it out. There is going to be growing pains in Detroit. But the Chicago Bears team I saw in that first drive where Caleb Williams was just firing. He was coming out. He was making plays. DeAndre Swift was making plays. Romo Dunze had that amazing toe touch catch. Cole Kmet had a really good game as well for them offensively. But for some reason, the Bears just, when it comes to clock management, they can't get it right. And that's what I think cost them on Sunday. I don't know about the number because the 6 is too high. I think a lot of the books are relying on a Lions get right game. But I wouldn't be shocked to see the Lions win, but pull one out of their ass, kind of like what the Bengals did on Sunday. Do you remember last year, week 2, the Buccaneers went to Detroit and beat the Lions, but they played like complete dog shit. It's just the Lions could not get out of their own way. I could see a similar game, but the Lions are the ones pulling off the win, and it doesn't look pretty.
Yeah. Where you're saying where the Bears, which are you referring to Thanksgiving? Or are you referring to a different line?
No, do you remember the Lions-Buccaneers game from week 2 last year?
Yeah,
where Baker went in and Baker played terribly, but then they
got 7 stops in the red zone.
Yeah, they got 7 stops in the red zone, but the Lions just had a couple of key turnovers and didn't play well. No, the clock management issue was Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was the one that got Eberflus fired. No, that was the one talking about the Lions-Bucs game from week 2. I can see a similar game, this one, where everyone thinks, oh, this is the Lions getting right. This is the Lions. They're going to smoke the Bears. But then Ben Johnson knows that team. There is other coordinators on that team who know the Lions. Another key piece too on that Bears staff is Dennis Allen, who never spent time in Detroit, but guess where Dennis Allen coached before? Guess who he coached with before he became a head coach? Dan Campbell. So Dennis Allen's going to know how to scheme up against, even with a new system. I think the Bears are going to give fits to the Lions, but the Lions ultimately win like a field goal game. A last second Jake Bates just like putting one through like a 55-yarder to like win it at the buzzer, like 24-21 or like something like, or like a 26-23. Like, do you remember the game last year against Houston? Like the Lions looked terribly, but they found their rhythm and stride, even though Goff threw 5 interceptions, they still won. It's that style of game I can see from the Lions. Ugly, but you get the win.
Yeah, these are two. This would be a good game to put on Thursday Night Football because we're still.
Yeah. But the Bears playing Monday, obviously.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And I get that. And I get that the Lions, like, they're not the bad teams that I was talking about earlier. But both these teams, there's information gathering going on. What is Ben Johnson going to do? What is Caleb Williams going to do? That was one of the big offseason questions. And we have some data, but we just have one game. We need more data. We had a lot of questions. How are the Lions going to look losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn? And we have one game of data, but we need more data. So this is a good like information gathering game to kind of figure out, because I am firmly of the belief that I know it was not cold, but Jared Goff notoriously struggles outdoors. He only played 2 outdoor games all of last year.
Yep.
And one was literally at Chicago and at Green Bay. Those were the only 2 outdoor games he played the entire season. Their entire out of division schedule was in a dome, either on the road in a dome or in their building, which is a dome.
The other one was San Francisco on the Monday night that won me the YWC Football Talk Fantasy League. Thank you, Amon Ra and Juwan Jennings.
Yes, I guess I should say cold outdoors.
Yeah,
mainly. But yes. Like nonetheless, this team did not play in any other like cold outdoor road games. Like the Niners being in California, and then at Green Bay, at Chicago. Those are their only outdoor games the entire year. I know
this year.
I know it's September. I know it's not cold outside, but you're still dealing with weather elements. You're still dealing with a different turf. You're still dealing with the fact that the way the players like hydrate and get through the day is different. Like there's just a lot of different elements to it. And when you play in a dome, you often play on a fast track. And in Detroit, especially, their building has a fast track. And with some of the guys they have, with Gibbs, with Jameson Williams, I think that does matter, and that could materialize in more big plays for their offense than you saw last week. And for that reason, I am currently of the belief that the Lions offense being so bad was yes, the Packers are great, partly outdoors. And I'm of the opinion, until they prove me wrong, that indoors at home, they should be the team that puts up 27 or more again. And maybe the Bears will disprove that, but that is my current belief. Until I see them struggle at home, I won't believe that this offense is just fundamentally different without Ben Johnson, because I do think they have more talent on the receiving unit than they did last year with Tesla's ascension, with JMO getting more involved in the offense. The offensive line is worse, of course, but I nonetheless think they should be able to bounce back here.
They still have one of the best right tackles in football, though.
Yeah, and no clue on the spread. None. Like, I could see a close game. I could see a blowout. I have no idea. We are information gathering with these.
I'm just making a pick on my judgment what I think will happen, but I will not be putting any actual physical currency.
No, of course. Fine. I'm aware, but we still like talking about what side we like. I am undecided, and I think you're on the Bears.
I'm on the Bears to cover, but the Lions to win. That's mine. Bears cover, Lions win. It's come to our game now. I said what I had to say Tuesday night in my Foxborough Frustrations podcast that you can catch every week, McGarvin and I and guests. But Big Rat, your Miami Dolphins had a rather bad day at the office, losing 33-8, leading the comments by, I did not realize Xavier Howard was a member of the Colts, basically saying we knew how to play with them, we knew how to scheme against them. So I want to simply ask you, because I know also there's a lot of injuries coming up this week as well, just offensive line, defensive line, cornerback, etc. Even I saw Darren Waller pop up on the injury report today. Not so much like just what happened. That's the best way I can sugarcoat it. What happened?
Well,
I'm going to sit back and relax.
There's the football side, and then there's the non-football side.
Well, the football. We know non-football. We don't have to go into that.
Okay, yeah. Non-football, it's possible the team is quit on their head coach. And if that is true,
I meant the Tyreek Hill stuff that came up.
That's a whole different thing. But what I mean by non-football, in terms of like not schematics, it is possible this team is quit on its coach. And if they have, they will lose this Sunday. They will not beat the Patriots if the team is quit. And if the team is quit, they will lose to the Patriots. They will lose to the Bills on Thursday Night Football. And then McDaniel will probably be fired. Because the next week is the Jets game at home. And that's a winnable game. And once you lose that game, the season is officially over. Don't get me wrong. You go 0-3, it's probably over anyways. But you go 0-4 by going 0-3 in your division and 0-2 in home division games, neither of which was the Bills division game at home. It's a wrap. So if they're 0-3 going into Monday Night Football, I think the organization, because they leaked to Adam Schefter today or a few days ago on the McAfee show, that they still think this is a good team. They think week 1 was an aberration. They think this is a good team. If you think this is a good team and you think this team can have a winning record this year and they start the season 0-3, you're probably going to suspect that the head coach is not maximizing the team.
Yes.
And you probably will want to make a change before a very winnable home game to jumpstart and save the season. Because if this team quits on McDaniel and you let McDaniel coach that week 4 game against the Jets and lose that game for you, by that point, it is too late. The season is gone. And because you play on Thursday Night Football, you have extra rest to set up the new coach and set them up for the next week. So I'm firmly of the belief, if they lose the next 2 games, I think they're going to make a change. I think they're going to fire McDaniel, and I think they're going to promote Anthony Weaver to the head coach. They may promote Darrell Bevel to head coach. I don't think they'll do that. I think it'll be Weaver. So. But he does have interim head coach experience. But the beauty of the staff is that you have so many, that it's kind of the problem that there is kind of a too many chefs in the kitchen kind of problem with the offense right now. You have McDaniel, you have Frank Smith, you have Darrell Bevel, a former OC, and you have on the fucking staff as a pass game coordinator, Bobby Slowick, who was an OC last year. So you have multiple interim offensive coordinator candidates. Like if you had to completely can McDaniel, you even have a guy in Slowick who's familiar with the scheme, with the Shanahan style running game. So you don't even have to change that much. I'm sure the players would like to change some things because it is year 4 of this system on offense and guys still don't know where to line up. They're still rushing to get plays in. When they played the Bills in 2022 in the playoffs, they lose that game for a bunch of reasons, but in part on that last drive, they're down 3 points. They have the ball at midfield. They have a shot to kick a field goal to go to overtime. It is 4th and 1. 4th and 1. They don't get the play call in on time. And they can't call a timeout because multiple times earlier in the game, they couldn't get the play clock on time and they had to blow a timeout. So when it happened for like the fourth time with the game on the line, they couldn't call a timeout. They had to take a delay of game penalty. 4th and 1 turns into 4th and 6. Skylar Thompson misses a pass to Mike Gesicki. Game over. So the disorganization of the offense not getting plays in on time, not getting lined up to the line of scrimmage, Tua breaking the huddle, and there's 8 seconds left on the play clock. And now there's 8 seconds left on the play clock. You have a bunch of different motions you need to set up. And what if Tua wants to call an audible? There's no time. And constantly watching that game on Sunday, Tua is still trying to set up the lineup properly. This is year 4 of this system. How is this still happening? How do people like Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane not know their assignments when they've been in this team for years? I'm not running away from the elephant in the room. That was the worst game of Tua's career. Tua turned it over 3 times. That prevented them from having any chance to compete on offense. But it's just emblematic of a larger problem when you start to wonder if this team has given up on its head coach. They still haven't fully bought into the offensive playbook. As successful as they've been, it's been on raw talent, and it hasn't been organized. And I was tolerant of the disorganization in 2022. I am no longer tolerant of offensive disorganization in 2025. And aside from like being a leader of men and whatever's going on the defensive side of the ball, that is something that Mike McDaniel can control, and it's not getting better. And after 4 years, you've had enough chances because that stuff kills you on the road. Constantly, when the Dolphins get embarrassed in these big road games, they're often disorganized. The defense often knows what they're going to do, and they don't have good counters in time, whether the time that they get set up at the line of scrimmage or going into the week, because everything was mapped out in a way that the defense was already scheming out to stop. So I think offensively, it is possible they've gotten stale. And then the corner, look, the interceptions and the fumble, like that's just Tua having a bad day. But separate from that, there were other offensive problems. And that's what's the concerning thing. I don't think these problems will necessarily manifest at home, but they have to play other road games. And is this going to keep happening where everyone's going to be disorganized at the line of scrimmage? They're not going to get the playoff in time. The play's not going to be executed properly. And the road defense, if it's above top 15, is going to shut it down. That's a problem for like generally, like the rest of this year. So that's the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, they got outcoached. I think there's no other way to say it. Daniel Jones had like a 2.4 time to throw, 2.4 seconds. That's very Tua-esque. They were getting rid of the ball very quickly. They were neutralizing the pass rush. All the pass rushes were getting chipped, and they were constantly making those guys have to defend out into coverage. Like very first play of the game, leak out throw to Tyler Warren. Jalen Phillips has to drop off to catch him. And Jalen Phillips, he's salivating. He's trying to go kill the quarterback. Doesn't get there in time. Tyler Warren gets like a free 8 yards. And the cornerback play was dreadful. Going into the season with Storm Duck as your starting cornerback was a disaster, and he lets up a touchdown to our boy Michael Pittman on 2nd and 20, Griff. 2nd and 20. They had just gotten a sack. It was the first positive defensive play of the game, and Storm Duck gets roasted for a 50-yard touchdown. Storm Duck's not going to play this week. He's battling an ankle injury. Rasul Douglas, who they just signed like 2 weeks ago, is now going to start at cornerback, which is crazy. Him and Jack Jones, most likely. Ethan Bonner, I don't expect him to play. That's the next guy the Dolphins kind of have waiting in the wings. But their cornerback room is a disaster, and they can't win games on defense if their pass rush is only going to get 1 sack. It's just not possible. I've said on this show with you that I thought this was a game where the D-line can like tee off like 5-6 sacks, like force Daniel Jones to turtle under the pressure. But they got outcoached. Shane Steichen called a great game. He got quick decisions, getting the ball out in a very quick period of time, 1-read throws to spots in the field that are usually going to be open, putting their linebackers and their edge rushers in conflict. And then when the opportunity calls for it, go attack the corners. And he called a good game. He completely outcoached Anthony Weaver, and the defense allowed Daniel Jones to score seven scoring drives on 7 Colts possessions. The first time that's been done since 1977. Not counting, the famous Josh Allen perfect game against your Patriots in the playoffs. That's the first time in like 50 years that an offense has gone perfect. They didn't punt. They didn't turn it over. They scored on every.
Our friend Big Rat has seemed to have frozen in time. Not sure totally what's going on there, but it's just him. The Dolphins drove him to do that. I'd also call the show, I'm going to repeat this when he comes back, but I would call this episode Roasted Duck, but I am not putting a jinx on my team because we need to win badly. Like I say, to the if you want to hear my thoughts on the game, because I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but McGarvin and I went into detailing on it to the best we could on Tuesday, and we did a quick little 25-minute recap on, hey, this is what we thought happened. This is, what we thought of the game. It's just bad day at the office for New England. New team, new system, new schemes. Hopefully this week they run the ball more. I really hope so. But yeah, so we'll just have to wait. Yeah, like he's gonna come back in. So it's just me. You get this wonderful face for right now. But yeah, because I'll be honest with you guys, I took the Colts for survival because I honestly thought like, hey, this is a winnable game. This is a game that they should go out. This is their not get right game, but this is kind of like their established game with the Miami Dolphins. This is the kind of game with the Miami Dolphins where I take it as, hey, this is what happened. Just gonna see if there's any update though from the Big Rat scenario, as I kind of have to really. Oh yes, he is going on his booking another guest. So we'll be there now. 59 seconds. He sent me that. So he will be back. He will be back. And here he comes back. I was saying, I'm gonna wait till that wheel stops spinning. I'm going to wait for that wheel. Basically, I was saying to the people that the two things. One, that you got so mad about the Dolphins that your internet just crashed out on you as you were crashing out. And then the second one being the fact that I'd call this show Roasted Duck, but I don't want to put a jinx on my team. Do we? Oh, I think we're. I hear something. Oh, is he there? Oh,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? It's a lot of dead air, but if you.
Hey.
We got you. We got you. We got the haze. Is he there?
You got me.
Yeah, we got you.
Am I there?
You're here.
All right.
So,
all right.
Okay. So the two things I was saying was that you crashed out so much that your computer crashed out on you, and the other one is that I would call the show Roasted Duck, but I'm not going to because I don't want to put a jinx on my team come Sunday afternoon.
That's fair. He's not going to play, but nonetheless, that is fair.
You just gave me the pun.
Where did I leave off before the internet cut?
I don't remember. The last I remember was just like I literally got distracted because it was just your face. Like your eyes were like bulging and you were just like really passionate about what you were talking about to where I'm just like, oh, Big Rat.
Oh, what? Watch this. Watch this.
Okay. We're doing magic tricks on here now, folks. Oh, you get double the Big Rat. I'm gonna kick this one from the studio. Yeah, you're back. I think we got you back. Don't you just love a good internet outage, everyone?
This is great audio.
It happens. It happens. I'm going to, because I don't think we need to go into details on what we think win and cover, because I think for the first time in a very long time, this is a true pick'em game. This is a very true, just hey, both teams are eligible to win. I don't think I need to go into details why I think I want my team to win. I don't think you need to go into detail on why you need your team to win. You pretty much just said that, hey, there's a lot on the line for your team going into this week.
And it goes the problem is that game but this
he's having some internet difficulties. I'm not too sure what's going on. I'm just gonna do this right now. I'm gonna we're gonna go live on the fly here. I'm gonna say, he lost. So basically what I'm doing is I just texted him saying that he froze again. I'm gonna hold the fort down until he comes back. I don't know if I ever told you guys this. I'm not going to show him on camera because I don't want to do that, even though he's been on social media before on my channels. But I have a dog right here. I have a puppy. Hey, want to say hi? What do you want to do? Huh? Does everyone want to look at the photo of Triple H over my shoulder? Or the Undertaker right there? Or my credentials from my CFL and golf days? There's many avenues we can go down. It's kind of, creatively DIYing this entire show in this moments for all that stuff right there. You know what, guys? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to wait for him to come back. Once Big Rat comes back, we're going to restart up the show. Okay? We'll be back. The last time was basically because I have my cat, I have my parents' dog. Cat was being a cat and was trying to start stuff, and I'm like, I don't like this, so I'm gonna leave the two of them be. But anyway, guys, I will be back when Big Rat comes back. A little hiatus never killed anyone as we try this for a third time. Big Rat had some power outage issues down in South Florida. At first I thought he was crashing out because of the everything with the Miami Dolphins that had gone on this past weekend. But
well, there is I crashed out because there's a huge thunderstorm in Miami, which is emblematic of the disaster that is associated with the Miami Dolphins. And basically, I already gave a long speech about how the offense was all fucked up to turnovers, etc. The defense could not get a pass rush. If they can't get a pass rush, they will allow 30 points a game because the whole theory of the defense is that the pass rush is so good that teams don't move the ball through the air. If the pass rush is shut down, they have no shot. I am slightly optimistic that the defense can tee off at home. I think pass rush generally plays better at home than it does on the road. What were your thoughts on Will Campbell and the rest of the Patriots O-line from what you saw?
So the left side, Will Campbell and Jared Wilson, two rookies, obviously respectfully, Will Campbell LSU, Jared Wilson, Georgia. They really held their own, but the one guy I was giving a lot of props to, honestly, was at center and Garrett Bradbury. No pass rush allowed. Will Campbell had a couple rookie mistakes, but it's expected. It was more the right side of the line with Morgan Moses that kind of concerned me. He's appeared on the injury report. So it's more that. It was more like Tyree Wilson was teeing off for a couple plays. Max Crosby wasn't Max Crosby, but he was always involved one way or another. So the offensive line, it's kind of like it was like going from dumpster Little Caesars to like Domino's, So it's like it gets the job done, but it's not best of the best. It's not the best pizza you've ever had in your life. So I ultimately feel like this game's just going to come down to which quarterback doesn't play bad, because even Drake, he played bad, but his bad was one interception thrown because he was getting hit as he threw. He had a couple overthrows, just come routes like that. If New England taps into the run game, that's where I feel like they can be more dominant. We'll have to wait and see, but that's really the eggs. That's like the basket I'm putting my eggs into, is that they get, Travion Henderson, they get Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson to a lesser extent involved in the run game. I know everyone's really high on drafting Travion Henderson in fantasy. I always cautioned away from it because I knew it's going to be a three committee backfield there in New England. So ultimately this game, I think Drake's got to play clean football. My bigger concern though is the pass rush only getting pressure when they were blitzing. That was a big concern. And also the play of the DBs, Trey Tucker, Thornton, Myers, Mayer, Bowers all had great games, but the run defense against Ashton Genty was very well. It was weird though. He had like 31 running yards, but he had like 44 after contact. So it's going to be very fascinating to see how this game goes. But I feel like for both teams, it's not so much get right, but I feel like whatever team loses, there's going to be that sense of panic that truly sets in. But whatever team wins, it's that like big sense of relief, especially too for a New England team who I know you guys play Buffalo next week, but we got Pittsburgh next Sunday. So this is a really interesting game also too, because there are 3 games, or at least actually there's 4 games that I know of this week that the next time that these opponents play each other is week 18. We're 1, Bills and Jets is 1, Dallas, New York, and Chicago, Detroit. So fun little wrinkles for this week, but ultimately I think New England can win. It's just, will they,
And yeah, and the Dolphins, it should be noted on the front, since we're talking trenches, Benito Jones may not be like a big name to a lot of people nationally. He's the Dolphins starting nose tackle. And so even though when you look at the Dolphins D-line, when you look at D-tackle, you probably first think of Zach Sealer, and then maybe you think of Kenneth Grant, their first-round pick. But
Yeah.
Benito Jones is the nose tackle, and he plays a lot. And it seems like he's not going to play this week. It's not confirmed. But if he doesn't play this week, then the Dolphins' backup nose tackles are rookies. It's the guys they drafted, like whether it be Jordan Phillips or Zeke Biggers or this guy Matthew Butler from the Raiders, I believe, who they picked up in the offseason. If it's a rookie backup nose tackle that is playing the main nose tackle reps, then you are very much vulnerable to the opposing run game, which I would definitely think logically in that game last year. That was the best game the Dolphins played all year when they completely slaughtered the Patriots in Miami. And the Dolphins D-line dominated that game. And that was without Bradley Chubb and without Jalen Phillips. And they still rocked that Patriots O-line. So I would like to think, like, I know it's a different staff, but they would probably think, let's try to run the ball more this time. And with the backup nose tackle situation for the Dolphins, that might pose an advantage for Ramondre or Travion to maybe bust out some big plays and keep this game close. It should be noted on your pass rush comment, the Dolphins O-line, James Daniels, the right guard, got hurt on the very first drive, put on IR. We couldn't even make it through one offensive drive before the Dolphins lost a starting offensive lineman for a month. People out there, if you want to know why the Bills are so good, they have not lost a starting offensive lineman in 2 years. They've had the same O-line for 2 years.
Yep.
Even if like some players maybe change from year to year, I don't know if they did. Maybe they did. The whole point is within the year, they were never reshuffling their O-line, which my team does every other week. And then beyond that, Austin Jackson, the right tackle, it looks like he's not going to play. So there will be an entirely new right side of the O-line for the Dolphins, which should give New England's pass rush. Keon White's probably not going to play, right?
I don't think so, which will probably open it up to Anthony Jennings. Harold Landry was someone else I really was impressed with last week as well. But Christian Barmore and Milton Williams really had solid, like not well-known games, but they had good games. It's more just New England's secondary depth is going to be tested, especially because it's looking like Gonzalez isn't going to go for the second straight week. The hamstring is a tricky one. He hurt it like right at the beginning of camp, and he hasn't played since or done much since. So we'll have to wait and see what he does. But ultimately, this I don't think this game can be a blowout either way. I think this is going to be a coin flip.
Yeah, unfortunately, there is more pressure on the Dolphins because yes, it's only week 2. Yes, both teams are kind of in the same spot, 0-1. They had some hopes of maybe being a playoff team this year. If you start the year 0-2 with a tough game on the schedule next week, that's not great. But ultimately, the game's in Miami. Like, if the game were in New England, maybe the pressure would be on New England. Like, Miami can't lose this game and expect to have a winning record in their division. It just will not happen. If they have to play Buffalo twice and then go at New England after this, and then that's just assuming you sweep the Jets, which is not even a guarantee based on how they looked in week 1. So there is more pressure on the Dolphins. And as you know, I love saying on the show, Tua has never lost to the Patriots.
Nope.
He has never lost to the Jets. And that would be, I joked about it with Phil in our Discord, which we should bring you to one day, by the way.
I think I'm in. I just don't know the whole.
Fair. Fine. The whole login, I get that. But the whole point is we were talking how, the Dolphins are the 5th best home team in the NFL since Tua became the starter in 2020. 5th best in the NFL. People wouldn't think about that about Miami, but it's true. The Dolphins are a dominant against the spread team at home when Tua plays the game. If the Tua's never lost to the Patriots, if they lose this Sunday, it's like this is all they had left. Like, of all the problems they've had, it's like, at the very least, they consistently beat New England at home, which is why this game is a good microcosm as a referendum on the McDaniel era, because it's no disrespect to the Patriots, because I think they can still be like an average team this year. And obviously all you guys care about mainly the growth of Drake May. But my problem is this is still a new staff. It's still a young quarterback. It's still early in the season. Maybe New England in December is a better version of what they are right now. Like, if the Dolphins do not win here, there is no hope, because I don't know what game they can win. Like, obviously, there's worse teams than the Patriots. I'm not trying to disrespect the Patriots like that. I'm just saying,
It's all good.
Given the dynamic of how they play against New England in Miami, and given the dynamic of the Patriots still being very early with the new staff and still a quarterback who hasn't even started, 15 games yet? How many games has he played? Like 12?
He did not play the first 5 last year, and then he played the other 11. So this will be his 13th start.
So if Tua and McDaniel in year four, with all the continuity in the world, all the skill guys are the same. Like the O-line has some new names, of course, but all the skill guys look the same. By the way, Patrick Paul, the left tackle, looked excellent in week 1. And I told you guys in the previous show that the hype locally was pretty strong, and it was coming from people who don't normally hype up every offensive lineman because the Dolphins never have good offensive linemen. But he actually had the Teron Armstead's replacement actually played really well in week 1. So if there's any fucking bright spot we can take from that performance, it would be that. So my whole point is, if after 4 years of Tua and McDaniel, if they're already below the Patriots week 2 in the NFL season, then how can they possibly do anything this year? If it's like already 2 weeks in, the Vrabel, McDaniels, Drake May Patriots are already better than the Tua McDaniel Dolphins because they beat them in Miami, then the Dolphins are screwed, and McDaniel's going to get fired. I cannot emphasize enough the legacy of Mike McDaniel, Chris Greer, and Tua are all on the line in this game. It is that high stakes for the
That's
Dolphins.
why I feel like Miami's probably going to win this game, even though I will be pulling for New England. That's pretty much all I have.
I'm genuinely, and I know we have other games to get to, but I'm genuinely torn because I think it is possible this team has quit. And if this team has quit, I think they'll lose. At the end of the day, I think I'm going to trust the 3 years of data of Tua and McDaniel at home against non-Bills AFC East team. That data is very strong. And so for the moment, I think I will trust that data over one horrible performance in week 1 and trust the Dolphins win this game. But again, to illustrate my point, if the Dolphins can't even win in this spot, then there's going to be a coaching change. Simple as that.
We'll just have to wait and see. New Orleans, San Francisco in a game that has not gotten interesting because San Francisco once again is getting bit by the injury bug. Brock Purdy going on IR today. George Kittle with a hamstring going on IR after the game last week. Brock's out at least 2 to 5 weeks, I think it is, as weird as that sounds. And then I think Kittle's about 4 weeks. So Mac Jones is probably getting the start in this one. But the one thing I'll say about this game is, though, I feel like this is the spot where San Francisco can truly cash in because that spread's lowering. Everyone's like, this and this, which he was never good, but I'll still take Mac Jones over Spencer Rattler just because I had this talk with my dad last Saturday. He still thinks this, like he asked me, he's like, how many games do you think the Saints are going to win? And I said 3. And he said he thinks that they'll win 7 because he's a Saints fan. And I was just like, I told him, I'm like, this is the time, like, you don't want to win games. It's going to suck, but you know what? There's a huge quarterback class coming out this year, including your offensive coordinator's son, who I have to say has looked really good so far. But I think this is a game where San Francisco, it looks low, and everyone's like, oh, let's bet on the Saints. And then they just like belt ass, honestly, because at the end, here's one other thing to San Francisco. Robert Saleh's defense played really well last week against Seattle. I know Seattle's offense is kind of but Robert, I completely forgot too. Like I was watching the end of the game and then I remembered I was like, holy crap, Robert Saleh is the DC in San Francisco, to where I feel like he can do good enough of a job just so where someone's going to give him another crack at a head coaching gig, not like next year, but like maybe like 2-3 years down the road.
Yeah, and Saleh, that was just when Bosa got the sack fumble. Yep. At the end of that game, and they pan to Saleh like celebrating on the sidelines, you just immediately get like 2019 flashbacks of like, oh yeah, like that's exactly how San Francisco.
This defense is really good.
Yeah, and he's the energetic. Like we always talk about this in the show. The guys that are better as coordinators than head coaches, like the energetic, like fired up, like my pass rush got a sack. Like that kind of mindset is perfect for him. And it's exactly what San Francisco needs because most of their youth and rebuild this offseason was mainly on defense. Like trading Debo got all the attention, but like most of the turnover was on the defensive side. So I think Saleh's impact there is magnified for that reason. And I like San Fran here as well. I was impressed with how functional the Saints looked with Kellen Moore. Like they I believe they led the NFL in pace.
They're going to be a bad, good team.
Yeah, they
good bad team. Excuse me.
They're going to be in fun games because Rattler looked functional and they play up tempo. They got to the line of scrimmage faster than any team in the NFL. So they're going to get a lot of plays in. There's going to be a lot of action and activity. And I think if you're a fun bad team, I think that's a good outcome for the Saints as long as the draft pick holds up. Maybe with their division, they can win games they're not supposed to. But even then, like fine, you beat the Panthers. Maybe you beat like the Falcons once, but that's still 2. And if you look at their non-division schedule, I don't know where the wins are going to come. Maybe the Dolphins, if they don't fire Mike McDaniel by then. Maybe the Giants, if Russell Wilson's still the quarterback. But absent like variables that are outside of their control, I agree with you. Probably a 3-win team. I like San Francisco this week. Once it's final that like Mac Jones, obviously we know Mac is starting, but Mac and all the injuries are final. I would probably bet the over in this game because I think the total is going to come down too far with Brock Purdy not playing and with Kittle not playing. That I think wait till the total like comes all the way down and then hit the over is what I would do because I think the Mac Jones and Niners are going to play better than people think, and I think the Saints offense is going to have more energy than people think. So, yeah.
There's one guy on San Francisco as well who really impressed me last week, and that was Ricky Pearsall.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky Pearsall, I think he's like, yeah.
I have him in every fantasy league. I drafted him everywhere because he was cheap as shit. You can get him like in the 8th round, and he's their number one receiver effectively until Ayuk comes back. But yeah.
But I also would lean on him too, just because Ayuk's obviously coming off the ACL and MCL injury. So where it's like, and say the two, like my one friend, he like drafted, he shows me his draft. And he's like, I got Ayuk and thing and Jennings, and I'm like, dude, you should have gone Pearsall. He said Pearsall like went around before, so it's like picking that up, and I'm like, Brandon Ayuk's such it's an FAFO draft pick that I wouldn't touch. Speaking of Robert Saleh, his former team, the New York Jets, taking on the Buffalo Bills at MetLife Stadium. The only question is, does the Bills cover the 6.5? Or because I could see this being a potential comeback to earth game for the Jets, where it's like you looked great last week, so you're going to look great against Buffalo, and then Buffalo just does what Buffalo does. Like if this number was like say for example with New Orleans, San Fran, if that number had stayed at like 5, 6, 7.5 for San Francisco, I'd probably take the Saints.
Yeah.
But with this game though, at 6.5, even though it is divisional, I think this is the kind of game where it's not so much does Buffalo play better, but does New York play worse against a divisional opponent that they've relatively struggled with, as the Jets have struggled against most divisional opponents in recent memory. Sorry, Danny. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because this is, again, an information gathering game. The Jets offense looked way better than we thought last week. How much of that is real? How much of that is going to sustain week over week? So it's an information gathering game. Are the Jets just going to put up 30 again? Maybe. Like they're at home. The Bills defense looks really shaky. I was with you on the safety play. Yep. I was really concerned by Buffalo in that game. Now we are both biased because it is in our respective fan interests if Buffalo is worse. No doubt about it. However, games like that, when a team makes like a miraculous comeback at the end of the game, I could think of 2 examples in NFL history in my lifetime where it's actually been misleading. The Texans in 2013, they were down like 28-0 or 21-0 against the Chargers. And Matt Schaub led like a 4-touchdown comeback, and they won the game on a walk-off field goal. And it actually meant nothing. The Texans went 2-14 that year because, like, when you're getting your ass kicked for most of the game and then you steal it at the end, it's like, yes, that is a sign of like a resilient team, but sometimes getting the win in the end masks the problems that were exposed that other teams expose in future games. And another example that comes to mind is when the Packers played the Bears in 2018 on Sunday Night Football, when Aaron Rodgers got hurt and he came back in the game and he led like a 3-touchdown comeback and they won by 1 point. Like that was the Packers' worst year under Aaron Rodgers in like decades. They only, I think, won 6 games that year. And the Bears that year won double digits and won the division. So similarly, this thing where like it's an impressive comeback, like by down 15 points in the last 5 minutes. I totally get it. But I'm just wondering, it did kind of remind me of those 2 games. Like, is this Buffalo defense in a place where they're just going to get lit up every single week? And we'll see. We'll see with the Jets. I think the spread's right on. I think it's going to be a 6 or 7 point game, so it can go either way.
I will say this too for New Orleans, San Fran though. I would not take that for survival. I'm going to give my survival pick in a little bit, but I would avoid taking San Francisco. I would not play with it.
Yeah, don't. This is not. There's going to be plenty of times to bet against the Saints. Don't do it now.
Yeah, don't do it right now. Just because you don't know what you're going to get with Mac. My thing with also because you bring up 2018, I always think about this. The Pandora's box would have opened if the Bears had made that kick with Cody Parkey. Because it's like. Because it would have probably been then the Bears, I think, would have played the Rams and the Saints would have played the Cowboys, which would have made.
Yeah, and I've always believed that Bears team was kind of built to beat that Rams team. They beat them in the regular season earlier that year, and that was a Vic Fangio coach defense. And they made Goff look terrible earlier in the year. And the Pandora's box from there spreads even farther because maybe the Saints make the Super Bowl. Maybe your Patriots don't get that last ring. Like there's a lot that could have gone there.
Yeah, there's still a part of me that believes that if it was Saints Patriots, it probably would have been much better Super Bowl because Belichick wouldn't have had to do this suffocating defense. I honestly think it would have been a shootout Super Bowl, kind of like what we saw in 2 years ago in Glendale with the Chiefs, the first Chiefs Eagles one, where it's just back and forth puncher's chances. I'm just trying to find the timeline for the next game, but yeah, the Jets. It's interesting with them to see, but I can see with Buffalo though that they keep it close with good teams, but then they beat up on the bad teams. It's just for Buffalo, like when they play the Philadelphias, when they play Kansas City, when they play Pittsburgh, even. How do you do against those teams? How do you do when you have these because Buffalo's got a shit ton of 425 and 820 games this year. I know this one's a 1:00 game, but then afterwards they get really more into the depths of that. So that's one thing I'm always going to be keeping my eye on with the Bills, because after this they play the Saints, they play the Dolphins, the Saints, and the Patriots. So that's a stretch where you figure they should go 3-0, but if they go 2-1 or even 1-2 down that stretch, I think that's going to raise a lot of red flags with Bills fans, where it's just, Josh can't always go with win us the game, but I feel like they should, take care of business that way. Pittsburgh and Seattle. This is a very intriguing one, but I'm going to go Pittsburgh, but I like the over of 39.5 in this one after what they showed us last week. And because I know Seattle's defense is good, but Seattle's offense is going to find a rhythm eventually. I don't think Pittsburgh's defense is as suffocating as the Niners defense.
Yeah, I would agree. I would assume that on paper as well. I think, Rodgers looked great. Rodgers looked like older Rodgers. I mean, it wasn't surprising at all. Jets fans, deep down inside, even though they may not want to admit it, they have to acknowledge, oh yeah, the possibility that Rodgers looks immediately better when he's not wearing a Jets jersey is just like Brett Favre that one year with the Vikings.
Yep.
Every single Jets fan in the world knew that was a very, very risky outcome for them. And I thought Rodgers looked great. I thought Rodgers found good rhythm. I think DK Metcalf is going to get 1 million targets this year. I actually regret not pursuing him harder in fantasy football, because I think that he is going to be not just the top target, he's going to be the top target by a distance, to where he may get an absurd target share, over 30% of the targets every week. And granted, JSN may have the same thing in Seattle, because he got targeted nonstop in that game. And so I think it should be a good game. The total's pretty low. I understand the logic. It's the Seahawks are going to run the ball a lot. That's going to shorten the clock. That's going to make for long drives. Not going to be a lot of points. But the total's still just too low for an offense in the Steelers that I think at home can exceed 20 points, and probably by a decent bit. And I think Seattle can do enough to bring it over as well. So the spread, I'm not sure. Again, another information gathering game. Seattle. What is Seattle? We still don't really know. That was a division game in week 1. It was a disappointing loss, but it was against a team that a lot of people have a lot of respect for. So Seattle went 10-7 last year. They're 0-1. They're on the road. They're underdogs. We don't really know yet what the story of the 2025 Seahawks is. So another information gathering game, and I'm excited for it. I kind of know who Pittsburgh is. At least I think. I kind of think they're the same 9-10 win team that they always are. But with Seattle, we get some information gathering in this one. I'm excited to watch it. No thoughts on the spread, but I agree with you on the over.
Tennessee, LA. I'm going with the Rams for survival this week. I thought Cam Ward looked good, but having him go up against another very vaunted defense, I think it's just going to be too much to handle. And I feel like the Rams are going to have a little bit better opportunity with a weaker Titans defense, as opposed to a Texans defense that's viewed by many as one of the better defenses in the NFL. That's all really I got to say about this game.
I really worry about Cam Ward. I love Cam. Not him as a player necessarily. He wasn't really taking that many chances from he was taking shots down the field. But what I mean is he wasn't making that many reckless throws, maybe some reckless sacks, maybe some plays where it's okay, you shouldn't drift into the pocket backwards 5 steps. That just doesn't work in today's NFL.
Yep.
But there wasn't really on the show I warned about the possibility of him having turnover worthy plays, and that didn't really happen. He was relatively safe with the ball, and every shot he took downfield was relatively a well-schemed play that either the receiver dropped or they were out of sync, etc. I watch this team, man, and I do worry that Brian Callahan's not a good coach. I worry that the receivers aren't good enough. Calvin Ridley's supposed to be the reliable one, and he drops an easy pass with the game on the line. Illuminor is good, but he's still a rookie, and how good is he in the NFL level? I'm concerned that this could be a year where Cam Ward is playing well, but it's not reflected in the numbers, and it's not reflected in the win-loss column.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he has a good setup around him. Most number one picks don't. That's why they're picked first overall in the first place, because the team's not that good. But it was a little bit worse than I expected when I was watching it. I was like, oh man, like the offense barely moved the ball. And you're watching it, it's like Cam Ward looks fine, but I'm concerned that this is going to be kind of a wasted year. That they're going to go like 5-12, fire Callahan, and then get the new offensive coordinator and a new wide receiver in the summer. And then we just kind of like start over. That's what I'm really worried about, because I really don't want to waste a year. But yeah, I'm with you on the Rams. No thoughts on the spread. I'm still skeptical of Matt Stafford's back. Just because he made it through week 1 alive doesn't mean he'll make it through it every week. But yeah, I'm with you on the Rams.
I just look at it as weaker opponent and just a good chance for the Rams to kind of win one here. I don't know if they'll be dominant or not. I don't really care about the spread. I just think that they win this game outright, as someone who got a strike because I wanted to pick your Dolphins last week just after your impassioned Colt speech. But that's another subject for another day.
Sorry about that.
That's all good. Arizona and Carolina in the 405 no one really cares window. My only thing with this game is are the Panthers bad, or are the Cardinals a sneaky good team? Because I feel like the Cardinals, I've said this for a while, going into this past offseason, that Jonathan Gannon was one of the coaches to watch for as a hot seat contender.
Yeah, well, because in general in the NFL, you go 3 years without the playoffs, you usually get fired. That's just kind of how the way it works. Now, maybe if Gannon like has a winning record, maybe he can at least convince ownership, hey, we went from 5 wins to 8 wins to 9+. So we're ascending.
I think you'd have to get double digits to get that, though.
Yeah, probably. And it's not exactly the most stable ownership situation. Like but with the exception of Bruce Arians, they've kind of churned through coaches pretty quickly before and after. So anything is possible. I do think they're good. I think they have I think the defense is going to be better. Their defense last year sneakily had like some really good metrics despite having a tough schedule. So I do think the defense can be better, even with Walter Nolan on IR. And I'm hopeful that the defense can be good and the offense could be like top 15-ish to at least give them a winning record, but we'll see. Carolina's performance was concerning. It was kind of like early season Carolina, like just seeing how bad Bryce looked and how out of sync he looked with the receivers. I'm going to take the Cardinals in Survivor this week. I don't love it. I took Philly last week. I don't want to take the Ravens this early. I don't love it. I think it's risky, but I don't like taking division games. Like I would probably take Dallas, but I just don't like taking division games. So it is risky, but I kind of just am going to trust that Arizona is the better team. This is their home opener. They haven't played at home yet. It's back-to-back road games for Carolina. I like to think that Arizona gets it done at home here. And I'm not sure continue with the theme. Information gathering. Is Carolina just going to be the same 5-12 team? Are they going to be the second half of last year's team? Are they going to be the first half of last year's team? Are they going to be something worse? Are they going to be something better? We still don't know. So information gathering game.
I have a hot take. I do think if they are the first half of last year's team, I think there's an outside chance Dave Canales is fired. Just because if you want to talk about unstable ownership, I know he's been quiet, but I think if David Tepper sees no progress, I think Dave Canales is like they would have to go 5-12 or worse again, I think, for that to happen. But David Tepper has a short fuse.
Well, especially since after the season, they have to make a decision on Bryce with his fifth-year option and with a possible extension. And if they're having a season that bad, that probably means Bryce isn't playing well, and that's why Canales is hired. So
you'd be fired.
Yeah, and I think because at that point, you as a franchise, if you don't want to get a new quarterback, and look, I have no opinion on whether or not Bryce will or won't be good. Like, let's give him more time. We'll see. But if it's bad this year, then you as a franchise, your only possible rationalization to save the pick is probably to get a different offensive coach. So that unfortunately could spell the end of Canales, but he's got time.
Colts and Broncos. I'm going to say this. I feel I got to lean Broncos here just because with the Colts, I think this is going to be an information gathering game. I feel like everyone's like, oh, Danny's going to go and sling it again. And no, knock on you and your team. But you're getting a step up in defensive play. But one play I'll make from last week, the one interception Bo Nix threw is very, very concerning because there was not a single soul in coverage to where I think against good level teams, those kind of plays are going to cost you wins. So that's where I think is Denver's crux. And we'll talk about them next, but I still don't see them winning the division. But all I have here is what are the Colts really? And are the Broncos as good as we think they are? Because I feel like if the Broncos are good, they take care of business. But if the Colts are that surprise team, they win this. They find a way to win this. I think it's either going to be a convincing Denver win or an ugly Colts win.
Yeah. Bo Nix, I believe by PFF, was the worst graded quarterback last week. Despite the fact that they won the game, they charted him with a few turnover-worthy plays, a few dropped interceptions, on top of the one he actually threw. And I am concerned because last year in the second half of the year, one of the big changes from Bo Nix's early season struggles was that he started leading the NFL in screen passes and passes behind the line of scrimmage. And that's kind of when his numbers started to take off. And I don't think you can sustainably win in the NFL that way. I think defenses are too good. They scheme against that stuff. They crouch in closer. Zone coverages have gotten way more complex. Like guys are covering different areas of the field at the same time. Defenders are as athletic as they've ever been. They can cover ground faster than they did in the past. So I think Bo Nix is going to have to show more. And Indianapolis, I agree with you. Information gathering, it's okay. You can take a shot at the Dolphins. They were the worst team in the NFL last week. They deserve it unless they hopefully right the ship against New England. They deserve all the heat they get until either they win a game or they fire their head coach. One of those two things, they don't deserve optimistic praise until one of those two things happens. So like this game, information gathering game indeed, because the Colts looked, I'm biased obviously because my team got their fucking ass kicked. Yep. And I need the Colts. If the Colts are like actually a 12-win team, that makes everything in the last 7 days a lot easier to handle. They look good. They genuinely look good. Like, yes, my team sucks. I'm aware. At least they suck right now. Maybe they won't suck forever, but they suck right now. I'm aware that the secondary is horrible. I'm aware that the offensive line was shaky on the right side during that first game. But they did look good. And what I was most impressed by was Shane Steichen and Lou Anarumo both outcoached Mike McDaniel and Anthony Weaver. Lou Anarumo was into his head. He didn't know where the pressure was coming from, as Cam Bynum told Kay Adams this week. He was completely scrambled. He didn't see Latu dropping down into coverage on a certain play. Like, I think they have a genuine schematic advantage on both sides of the ball. Now, the Broncos have two good coaches as well on the offensive defensive side of the ball, so it may not matter in this game. But in general, I was impressed. Like, it would not surprise me if the Colts actually do win that division this year, despite the fact that on the previous show, none of us really
buried them.
Yes. And they still might deserve to be buried. But I was impressed at what I saw. They look like a really well-coached team on both sides of the ball that can win 9 or 10 games. And that's week one. Week one is prime for overreaction. That's why we need information. This week gives us more information.
The other thing for this game I look at is the under of 43.5, just because, you have two defensively sound teams, one that obviously only allowed 12 points last week and one that allowed 8 points last week. So I think the under is would be, if you were to place money on this game, I think the under is the way to go.
After what I saw Lou Anarumo did to Tua, and I watched that Broncos-Titans game closely because of Cam Ward, it would just not shock me at all if Lou Anarumo completely fucks with Bo Nix this game. So yeah, I like the under.
Kansas City, Philadelphia. So the take I heard with Kansas City earlier today. So they say Patrick Mahomes has to be Superman. I think he's been more Clark Kent the last couple of years. Where it's a lot of like I think his he was only second to he was down the bottom with Daniel Jones and Cooper Rush last year for deep ball accuracy passes. Yeah, obviously Xavier Worthy got hurt in that game, but and also too the other take I saw about this, and I wanted to say this to you because I find it funny. Is Patrick Mahomes just Jameis Winston, but shit goes right for him?
That's clever.
It's not an insult to Patrick. It's just someone said it, and I'm like, I kind of agree with that, where it's like, Pat's a good quarterback, but he gets the goofy shit off. Meanwhile, Jameis does the goofy stuff, and it's in the opponent's hands, and he's Vinny Testaverde. But with this game, though, I liked what I saw from Philly. Kansas City's defense really concerned me last week. I know it's a road game in Brazil, but, like George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, there wasn't enough pressure rushing there or adding. Obviously, Philadelphia lost Jalen Carter earlier in the game because, you don't spit on people. But I'm going to go Kansas City here because I feel like this is a real chance for them to show the world, hey, don't forget about us. For all the talk of, is this the year the AFC West is dethroned? This is a game where I can see Patrick putting on a show.
Yeah, and I'm not that high on Philly. And historically, Philly away from Philadelphia in the Jalen Hurts era is been pretty disappointing against the spread. So
it's a pick 'em here.
I would lean the Chiefs to bounce back. I do think there's a world where the Chiefs aren't as good this year as they've been the last few years, but it is week 2 and it's the Super Bowl rematch. It's their home opener. I'd have to think they have something cooking here. Now, who's going to catch the ball? I don't know. Tyquan Thornton, maybe? we'll see. But I would kind of trust Kansas City to kind of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes up, like schemes, play action, like completely like grifting, nickel and diming their way down the field.
Throw
like
shit at a wall and hope it sticks.
Yeah, and attacking Adoree Jackson in coverage nonstop. Like I would kind of think that would be their route to success here. And then on the defensive side, their secondary did look rough last week. Like they let Quentin Johnson have the best game of his NFL career, and that's concerning when going against A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. But I'd like to think home opener, Super Bowl rematch, Chiefs got this.
Yeah, I'm in the exact same boat. And then I'm gonna be honest with you, Sunday Night Football, I'm intrigued by this game, but I think it's also information gathering. You know, what is Minnesota, but also too, I'll say this. Michael Penix looked really good in that game against Tampa Bay last week. I do think he's going to be a good quarterback. Bijan Robinson's just a force. Like, I love looking down on my phone at 110 and I see 50-yard receiving touchdown, Bijan Robinson, because he's on my fantasy team, appropriately named Bed Bath and Bijan. But with this game right here, I want to go Atlanta because they played a more consistent 4-quarter football game. Obviously, they lost, and because when Baker had to go be Baker, Baker was Baker. But Minnesota, it took some time in marinating. I know it's the Vikings home opener. I know the Skol chants are going to be going. The Gallahorn is going to be blaring. But what Atlanta did last week, and also the fact that I believe Atlanta is the underdog in this game, I think playing 4 quarters but still losing, I think outshines playing 1 good quarter and winning against a Bears team that kind of like, took their foot off the gas, because there was a lot of mistakes there made by J.J. McCarthy where he just looked nervous and flustered, etc. And Atlanta does have a pretty decent defense as well. So I'm in the mindset that this is a game that the Falcons get. Everyone's like on the high of Monday Night Football. Like, Minnesota, they look great. Look at this comeback. The big picture here is I feel like Atlanta's just going to kind of come in and like, not so much punch them in the mouth, but like reality check it, where it's like the Vikings are going to be this team where 1 week you love them and 1 week you can't stand them.
Yeah, very much, especially with how JJ played. Like the first 3 quarters were so bad, but then the fourth quarter was so good. And I am usually the guy that is like, don't overrate 1 good quarter over the rest of the game. But even I couldn't help but think when I watched that game on Monday, like, oh, wow, this JJ guy's got the stuff. Like, he's got like that moxie. Like, and I normally don't talk like that, but you just kind of felt it. Like the way when the Bears missed the field goal and then he's just clapping as he's coming onto the field. Like, you can almost, in watching the broadcast, just think, oh, this guy smells blood. Like this guy's about to start playing better. And sure enough, 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, stole NFC Offensive Player of the Week. I have no idea how, but that's just the state of the NFL, I guess. So the Vikings were still information gathering because JJ could easily just be how he was in the first half of that game, in which case they'll probably lose. But furthermore, the Falcons were still information gathering as well because Michael Penix has only had 4 starts in his career. So we still don't really know how good both of these teams are. This
would have been a great Thursday game, by the way.
It would have been excellent. And it'll be fine on Sunday. But yeah, like it would have been great on Thursday too. And I kind of sneakily like the under here a little bit because Michael Penix is going against the Brian Flores defense. Maybe Brian Flores has some blitz packages that confuse him, cause him to hold on to the ball, especially because Michael Penix is a very aggressive thrower. That's why he looks so impressive, because every ball's going down the field. But what if the other side of that aggression is it takes too long to get the ball out and maybe a blitz that you don't see coming on your blind side comes and gets you? So I kind of like the Brian Flores matchup against Michael Penix. And then on the other side, you have J.J. McCarthy going against Raheem Morris, who Baker, like you said, he did Baker things in the fourth quarter. He ended up playing very well.
Emeka Egbuka looked really nice as well for them.
He did. But Baker had some dropped interceptions in that game. He had a 10% turnover-worthy play rate. Like, he rebounded ultimately. And I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because I just credited J.J. McCarthy for doing the same thing. But there were rough spots for Baker in that game. Maybe it's a testament to this Raheem Morris Falcons defense, second year of his system. They got some rookies in the offseason starting at safety that they really like. Maybe this Falcons defense is better than we think. And maybe they forced J.J. McCarthy to look like first half J.J. McCarthy last week. So I think both defensive minds have a shot to trouble the opposing quarterback. And that's why I kind of like the under here, sneakily. I know it's risky. It's an indoor game for 2 dome teams. 2 teams that have explosive offensive players like Jefferson, like Bijan, like Pitts, like London. But kind of sneakily like the under here.
Yeah, I'm in the same thing too. I'm not going to bet it. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it. But before we get to Monday Night Football, I think I've built my parlay for the week. Baltimore, Cleveland over,
Yeah.
Cincinnati money line,
Yeah.
and Dallas -4.5.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Monday Night Football, I see a bet that I like right away. I like the Buccaneers as an underdog in this game. I feel like a lot of people are thinking, when's Houston going to come? You know, this and this. You know how we always credited Todd Bowles for being a good coordinator but a bad coach? He's really had a great second life in Tampa because he had to go find a way to win, and he did it. And also the fact, too, that the Texans didn't get much generated against the Rams team. And now you have the Buccaneers coming to town who have just as if not a little bit under a ferocious of a pass rush. Great play in the secondary, great linebacking core. Oh, and they got a bunch of weapons that can just bully you all day long. So I'm going to go with the Buccaneers here in first of an old school Monday Night Football doubleheader.
Yeah, the D'Amico Ryans came out today and said he thought the offensive line played well for Houston. And it's like, okay, if you think they played well and they scored 9 points,
that's a red flag.
That's a problem. Like, you know, I was telling this in my own local friend group chat last week during the games because I love Stroud. Like, I drafted Stroud in our college fantasy football league back in 2021, his first year as a starter for Ohio State. I remember when there were Ohio State fans that wanted to bench him for Quinn Ewers that year, like early in the season, just because he had a few rocky games to start his campaign. I've always been a big Stroud guy, but at some point, for someone who ranks so high in all these top 10, top 15 quarterback lists, this offense struggles to score. And they spent all summer blaming Bobby Slowick and blaming the offensive line. Well, you got rid of Tunsil, you got rid of Shaq Mason, you got rid of Bobby Slowick, and the offense looks worse. Like, again, it's week 1. Maybe they will start playing better as we go from here. But I was concerned with the fact that it seemed like the offense hasn't gotten any better. And you're playing a Bucs team that didn't have the best offensive performance, but rebounded at the end. And the Bucs are slowly becoming like a proven team. Like, they don't have the high level playoff success after the Super Bowl that some of these other teams have had, but like they win 9 or 10 games every year now, like 4 or 5 years in a row. Like, with the exception of, I guess, the 1 year they won the division at 8 and 9, but you get the point. Like, they've been a pretty consistent team, and this is going to be a really close game. I'm going to lean Houston maybe just because it's at home, but like Stroud, the Texans offense, like you blame Bobby Slowick for everything. Okay, let's start to score points. I know that outside of Nico Collins, the rest of the receivers aren't that good, but you use 2 day 2 picks on those Iowa State guys. Like, it's time. It's time for the Texans offense to show me that it was actually all Bobby Slowick's fault and start to score, because I need this team to start to score, or else maybe we shouldn't put Stroud in these top 10 quarterback lists as often as we do.
I don't know if it's a make or break it year for D'Amico Ryans, but I definitely think it can be one of those years that if it doesn't go to plan, that next year is a real, like, hey, you got to do everything, because they're in the same situation too. Stroud's due contract, or at least a 5th-year option getting picked up next offseason as well. And then the last game of the week, I only have one real question for you. Are you going to stay awake for this entire game, or are you going to go to bed early? You know, 10 o'clock start, Chargers, Raiders.
It's a late start. I'm currently off of school for the next 2 weeks, so I do have a little bit of a break. But yes, it is not like we'll see how the game is flowing. I was impressed with Vegas. I mean, you would know better than I, but just like from what I saw of the game on Red Zone, and
Gino loves Foxborough.
Yeah, man, like it was impressive. Now the Chargers obviously looked even more impressive beating the Chiefs, but there's part of me that wonders, is that Kansas City secondary, did they just have like a bad day because it was week 1? Because, and I'm not trying to it's nothing against Herbert.
You're on the other side of the world too.
Yeah, and Herbert was incredible, but like for me, it was more so seeing Quentin Johnson playing so well. It's like that just really like caught my attention. Like, what? Yeah. What is going on here, Kansas City? Why is Quentin Johnson always open? Like, this is not normally a thing. Not that the Raiders secondary I would trust to do like that much better, but at least it's a fun coaching matchup between Pete Carroll and Jim Harbaugh. and they have bad blood from their college days, USC and Stanford. They have bad blood from the NFL with the Niners Seahawks. And they asked Pete Carroll today about his memories of going against Jim Harbaugh. And he said, I have memories, but I don't have very many good ones. And that's fun. That's juicy that we got like coaching friction in today's NFL. I think the Raiders are live here. I really do believe the Raiders are better than people think. And this game is in Vegas. This is a very important division game for their win total, for their season outlook. I'm going to pick the Raiders. I'm going to go out on a limb and pick the Raiders.
One other thing to watch for in this game is just field conditions because Saturday night's a huge Canelo Alvarez Terrence Crawford fight inside Allegiant Stadium. I know I just realized they roll the grass out, but still, it's just something to watch for. You have this big event. 48 hours later, you're playing football on the field. My big takeaway with this game really is just will the Chargers charger, because they have the potential to be good, but then at the same time too, a spot people think you're going to win, and a lot of people might wake up Tuesday morning and go, what happened? The Raiders are now 2-0. They're 1-0 in division. But because you have a side where it's like, hey, the Chargers go 2-0 in division play.
That'd be huge.
That is huge for them. I was going to say, I wanted to go Chargers with this one, but I got to lean Vegas just because of what I saw last week. Gino was able to get stuff done. But I still feel like with the Raiders, they're going to run into a team that's really, really good. And that's where it's like, oh, they kind of come back to earth a little bit. Like, I still have the Raiders being a 7-8-9 win football team. I think it's just, it's an unfortunate division. You have the juggernaut Chiefs. You have a really good Charger team. You have a Bronco team a lot of people expected a lot of good things from. They're going to be a team, though, that's a thorn in people's sides like they were for me on Sunday. And it's not even like that they were anything spectacular, but like the defense made plays when it had to. Offense, Geno Smith was just clicking. Brock Bowers is a real good weapon. I don't know what his status is for this game because he did leave early, but the one thing I love with this rivalry is Raider fans posting to Chargers fans a game 2 years ago where that got Brandon Staley fired. The Thursday night game was like they put 63 on them. And Charger fans just like, that was the best day of our lives. Thank you. Like, because you kicked our ass, we got rid of this terrible. And also one other thing too is Tom Telesco was let go from the Chargers that day as well, and worked with the Raiders last year. I have no idea what he's doing now, but I know he was fired from the Raiders as well. My big takeaway from this game is just really, is it the Chargers? Are the Chargers, they're the Dennis Green team this week. They are who we thought they were, Are you a good team in that sense, or are you a bad team in that sense?
And the Raiders, like in using wrestling parlance, there's this phrase that we know very well called jobber to the stars.
Yeah.
Where, in wrestling, for the non-wrestling fans out there, it's like a wrestler who will beat up on all the bad wrestlers, but will always lose whenever they're facing one of the star wrestlers. And that's the kind of team the Raiders can be this year. Like it's what the Steelers usually are. It's usually that like 6-7 seed in the AFC playoffs. It's like you're good enough to win, have a winning season, but you're not good enough to beat the teams that matter.
Yes.
The jobber to the stars. And I think the Raiders could have the jobber to the stars season.
I think so too. Where it's like you lose to the teams. Basically, you beat the teams you're supposed to beat. You lose to the teams you're supposed to lose to, but then you get a couple surprise wins. And this is one that I could see them getting. I also would look at the under. I would look at the under for this game as well, just because, like we say, Raiders, they only scored 20 last week against New England defense. That was kind of like, him and Haw. Daniel Carlson did miss a field goal in the game. But ultimately, I think that there's a lot on the line for the Chargers. So that's where I'm going to go Vegas, because this is a game people expect the Chargers to win, and I feel like there's those games where the Chargers are going to trip on their own feet like they usually do. Like there's been games in years past where it's like, oh, they look good, but A, but B, but C,
Agreed.
Yeah. But anyway, folks, hopefully you win some money week 2. Big Rat and I are. I think I got my parlay. I think I got my spread picks in. I'm going to open up my CBS Sports app. I was looking good. I had the Bears, so I was going to go 8-8 against spread, but I unfortunately went 7-9. So so basically I have all my picks. So my spread picks for this week are Green Bay, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Dallas. My Bears Lions one's at 5.5, so I think I might go Bears just because of how I think the game's going to go. Patriots, 49ers at -4.5 because ours does the first week of this, like the opening line. Buffalo, Seattle, Rams, Cardinals. I'm changing that now. Broncos, Chiefs. Let's change that to the Falcons, and let's change that to the Raiders. And boom, there we go. Those are the picks for the week. Hopefully you guys win some money. For Big Rat 310, I'm Griff. This has been episode number 386 of YWC Football Talk. Big Rat's going to be back many, many more times this season. Thank you for the cooperation, and let's have a week 2, everybody. Have a good night.
Peace.